Hello, everyone. The last time we started talking about the other type of media or multimedia, when we talk of multimedia, we started talking about text, where we talked about fonts and font faces, how fonts are installed. During the practical session, you were given fonts to install and also use for your project. We also talked about how to select the right type of fonts for the right type of job. So that was the first aspect, which was fonts and faces and faces. We also talked about how to use text in multimedia. So unit two was more centered on text, where we talked about the text elements in a multimedia presentation, the use of um, these texts in coming out with a very good presentation. I gave you an idea of how your text should look like, how a good graphic is, how your text should not be on a background that makes it difficult to read those texts. So those were some of the things that we talked about. In today's activity or in today's lecture, continuing from where we left off, we're going to talk about, we're going to start with the use of text in web. If you recall in your practical session, what the TA did was he showed you how to come out with a text in a design which is meant for print out. So there are certain things that you need to, formats that you need to change your settings to make it easier for your printout to look very good. So in the same way, in today's there will be a video online where it's also going to help you to come out with some of these texts and the creation of multimedia that are meant for the web. So now let's start with the use of text in the web. And if you recall, from the introduction to this particular unit, I said after all this, you should be able to understand the different fonts that are available and faces, the font faces. Excuse me. And you will be able to describe text in multimedia. You should be able to explain font editing and also design tools. We should be able to enumerate some hypermedia and hypertext. I remember I spoke to you about the difference of these. So let's delve into today's activity. So quickly, I'm going to pull out the next slide, which is meant for quickly. Um, yeah, so yeah, the last time this is where we got to in the area of text layout, which how to put up your text on your backgrounds, giving a very good backgrounds. I remember we spoke about all of this. So this is a good presentation and this is a bad presentation. Let me activate this. There's a bad presentation. This is a good presentation. This is a very bad presentation because it's a little difficult to read these texts in this particular multimedia design that is being created in here. This is a good one because it's very easy to read the text that we find in here. So what we've done so far was on text layout. Now let's try and come out with the multimedia whenever we want to, put some of these information online. So let's talk about the use of text in web. So generally, when using text in websites, the idea is to be able to attract visitors to your site and to get more attention. They keep saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. But of course, if the picture or the graphic that is being put on the site is not so good, then it is useless. And most times, before we are directed to websites, usually it is based on a text that you might have seen on your phone. So, for instance, in sometimes on your notification area, you have a text coming up, maybe how to make money online. That could be that is a text that is being projected to your notification. And the moment you see that, that gets your attention, and when you click on it, it takes you to a page where you're able to read the content in there that will make you maybe make money online. So generally, when we talk about the use of text on webs, we're more centered on using text in websites. So the whole idea is to be able to attract visitors' attention as well as to help the visitor understand the web page better. So by doing this, it is very easy and very fast for people to, appreciate what is being presented to them on the web. And there are certain reasons why text sometimes is preferred over maybe pictures and certain graphics. I will explain on that. So it is far better than the use of meaningless graphics and also images which do not contribute in any understanding to the page. So you can convey some information to the user who is on your site by the use of text. Of course, the font style and the text style that you're going to use is also very important. These will help get the better attention of the person using the website. So now, in the area of text and web, text is very important to help attract people's attention. Now, why do um, we try to advise people to put in good text, text online? And there are certain reasons, and these are some of the reasons why it is always better to have your website, put on text instead of having to push in so many graphics or so many pictures on your site when we talk of multimedia. Now, website loading is very key anytime you think of, generating traffic on your site. So, for instance, if your website takes about 8 seconds, more than 8 seconds to load, that would sway off, visitors from coming to your site. So generally, website loading is one of the important factors that influence the conversation as visitors, starts to leave the page anytime, the page takes a very long time, more than 8 seconds to load. And to be able to make sure your website loads very fast, then you should incorporate the use of text. Incorporate text in your site, a lot of text in your site, and that makes it less, heavy for the content to display. So most times, a website which contains a lot of text loads faster than websites that contain, some of these that have been outlined in the internal codes. By internal codes, I mean to say, um, maybe sometimes you have a JavaScript. Some of these things, as I keep saying, you will not really be doing it in here. Any site that has lot of Java internal codes embedded in there, have so many images and certain graphics on the site, have JavaScript that is able to load some menus and also drop down certain menus and also show some sort of Google Analytics. These are ways that will make your website slow. So the ones that you see in here, internal codes, lots of images, JavaScript, sometimes too, you open a website and automatically you hear a voice being played. Of course, the voice usually it's a little heavier. So you virtually will be streaming the voice online, just like how videos are. So if you visit a website that has a video embedded in the page on the go, it's and once if the video is on autoplay mode, then automatically that particular site will take a longer time to load because the video would have to be streamed. Um, and the audio would have to be streamed to be able to listen to it. So having audios and videos on page load on websites is not the best. And again, if you have websites that incorporate tables, there are certain codes or commands that we type in the creation of a website. If your website has so many tables in there, that can also hinder the the speed of the site loading. It is always better to incorporate something we call CSS, which is cascading style sheet, in our website than to use tables to define, certain sections of our site. The use of tables also slows down a website. So generally, the table-based layout that is being used in the design of a web page takes more like twice as much time compared to using CSS in the creation of that site. So it's very important to note that to be able to catch visitors' attention and let them be on your site for a very long time, and also catch their eye, it is very important to make sure you maintain text on your site and reduce the number of pictures or graphics that are on your site. This is why text should be the primary concern whenever you are thinking about, creating a website. And again, it will make your website load very fast. Now, text in films such as titles and also credits. Most of us are aware that most of the film industries, whenever they are creating, they create films with its title and also, um, most films usually come with a title and also come with credits, people that helped in bringing out the best in the film. Um, of course, text is very important in such scenarios. So a text is shown over either a plain background. From what you see in here, you can see we have a writing in here which is shown on a dark background. So of course, it's a little easier to read what's the text that is we have in there. So from the director of the award-winning film, I am whatever, and this is the inscription that is there. It is easier to read. So the text and the color that you use for your text is very important whenever you think about the website. So the theme, so when we talk of text in films such as the titles and the credits, you should be mindful that the theme or the look of the multimedia product is very key. So the selection of these texts and the colors that you use, you have to be careful about it. So again, the amount of text that is needed on the maybe on the flyer or on the design that is going to showcase on the film is also very key. If you jumble up a whole lot of text in here, it's not the best because you will not really appreciate the graphics that has been displayed. The placement of the text, where you put the text, is also very key. You can see the title of the movie, I think, is Jalpari. That is a desert mermaid. I think this is the name of an individual, a person. This, I'm sure, is this boy, and they're giving more caption about this individual. This is a desert mermaid. So where you place the text in terms of the title and sometimes the credits is also very key. So from this, you can see the credit has been given at the bottom of the text, and the title. This is the title. Obviously, might be this, and this is a little description of this particular movie. So the placement of these texts on the graphics that is being displayed for is very key. So the format of the project together with the content of information that you put in here is also very key. So the text is shown over either a plain background or a colored background, whichever one that you choose. So in terms of the typography, that is the look of the design, it will make it look a little different. So different formats such as that of the font title on the website, the way the design is with the flyer might be a little different when it is designed and put on the website. So these are key things that you should have in mind. To include a text in the multimedia, the designer has to keep in mind the points given. And these are the points that have been given in here. Whenever you want to include a text in the multimedia, whoever does the design should have these points in mind. The theme of or the look of the multimedia product itself, the amount of text that will go onto that particular multimedia, the placement of the text, at what point you place the text, the format, and also the content of the information. Now, text in subtitles in films and also documentaries. So there are times you're watching a movie on Netflix, and you know it's always important to have your text in a way that it's readable by whoever is watching that particular movie. So if you have a Netflix, you're watching a Netflix movie, and maybe for the next 5 minutes, the scene is maybe a little dark. So your subtitle is white. If your subtitle is white, and the scene itself that is being displayed is black or it's a little dark, then it means the subtitle that you have on top of the scene or the movie that you are watching becomes visible and legible for you to read. But where we get to a portion where the scene that is being displayed is not dark, but has a very bright color like white that you see in here, then automatically the white writing that you have on the scene would not be seen. So you will not be able to read the text that's the subtitle that is on the screen. So we normally advise people that are into the creation of subtitles in the area of text to have a border layout on that particular subtitle. So, for instance, you have maybe filmmaker, whatever, assuming this is a subtitle, you can have an outline on top of the film. So, the actual color for this one is film. Let me see if I can project one for you to see. The TA is using Photoshop to teach you. I have been using what we call Fireworks. It's a micromedia application. Um, so this is something I did some time back. Not quite long. Let me see if I can also have another one in here. So for instance, I want to show you something. Okay. So this is my complimentary card. This is a sample of the complimentary card. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if you can see it in here. Just a minute, please. Yes, so the design that you see in here, you can see it's quite similar. This was printed not quite long. The design that you see here, you can see the writing in here is visible over here. And the writing that you have in here is also visible. And this is where the writing is. You can see that is the design. And at the back, this is the back design. Now, this is what I'm talking about. For instance, Fireworks is also a tool that you can use to create your complementary card, like the Photoshop that you use. But I think for some time now, Micromedia is not producing Fireworks again. They are into Photoshop. Adobe, I mean, Adobe. They are producing Photoshop. Fireworks is no more being used. Some time back, it was being used. All right, there is this I want to show you. So if the movie we're watching, you know, now assuming this is our movie, this is the movie. Before it was dark, it had a dark background, maybe like this. Let me change this dark background, like possibly this. So it has, and we had some information in here, maybe um, all right, this is just a demonstration. Let's see. Um, so at the time we are watching the movie, assuming this is the movie, circulated being over here. Let me increase this a little. Yes, and this is the subtitle. We will be able to read the subtitle. But what if it gets to a point where the background is white, but no more dark? Then it becomes a little difficult to read the content in here, assuming the writing is white. So for instance, if the writing is white, let me change the original writing to a little something a little darker. So we are watching the movie, then it gets to a scene where the background is a little, maybe daytime is a little white, and we have a writing that is white. So it means if the background is white, then it means we would not be able to read the subtitle. So in solving this, what can we do? It's always advisable for those that produce subtitles, to add what we call a layer over here, an outline over here, maybe with a color that is a little deep. Sometimes they use black. So even when the background um, is white, it's still readable. The text that you have in here is still readable. If I should take it back again to the previous, sorry, to the previous scene, which was a little darker, see, it's still readable. So subtitles are very key when what you put on the subtitle is very key when you are creating your application. So that is about it. I'll minimize it. I don't know if I'll come back again to it. So text in subtitle in film or documentary is very key, and there are certain things that you should have in mind. So before adding subtitle to a film, people working on the film needs to look into the different font style, spacing, and font color and size. So an example is fonts that just like now I'm sure you've seen so many fonts on Photoshop. Fonts like Georgia, Vedana, Tahoma are great for the use in websites, but they are as they are designed to work well on the web or in static design environments where the background does not really change. So filmmakers also experiment with fonts for subtitles and also use sans serif fonts, and they are much more readable than others. In fact, this is very key. So there are certain fonts that will not work so well on the web, but will work well on papers or like complementary cards. And there are others too that will work very well on subtitles. So these are very important things that you should have in mind. So that's about text on subtitles. Now, text in advertisements. So in most advertisements, um, we try as much as possible to make our content in there as short as possible. So it should be short. It should be able to contain on one line, simple, containing one key idea. So you don't just jumble things up whenever you are designing something for advertisement. You hit um, on the right information that you need to put there. The idea is to be able to catch people's attention. So you don't dump a lot of information in there. So certain phrases that are not so important and certain jargons that you think are not so good, to catch people's attention, you try as much as possible to desist from it. Now, what is the significance of text-based advertisements? And these are some of the things. We should be mindful that since text ads are more keyword oriented, there are certain keywords that you have to hit to be able to sell or catch people's attention when you're selling out a flyer or an advert that is going to put on billboards and stuff. So you should be able to draw more attention than the banner design advertisement that you know. There should be some key words that should catch people's attention. So the text ads are inexpensive, therefore making it affordable and effective for most business. So the foremost benefit of having text-based advertisement is that it helps in improving your search engine ranking. Now, this point is very key. If you have a website that is more of pictures, and you have less text, search engines like Google finds it a little difficult to be able to read the content that you have on the site. To be able to also showcase your site if people are looking for some of your products. So it's always good to have text-based advertisement. By text-based advertisement, for instance, if you want to put up a job offer for people to apply, like maybe you might want to put up a job offer for people to apply, we can design a flyer that is probably saying job opening. That is a very good keyword. Then under the flyer or under the design that is put on the site, we can give details of the text of the job description that we need. So it is based on these text details that we have under the design that Google or these search engines are going to pick and use to, either rank our site or make our site visible for people to see whenever they are looking for information in the area of possibly the advertisement or the job opening that we've created. Font editing and design tools. So You know of fonts and all of and some of the design tools that have been used so far. So the font editor is a class of application software which is specifically designed to create or modify font files. So the fonts that you download online, they are specific, application or software that you can use to modify the look of a font. So for instance, if you have an A written like this, you can have a specific software that you can use to change the look of the character A. And that could also yield a different font. I remember I spoke to you about how to get fonts online. Just go to Google if you know the name of the font and you can just put it in there and you get the font. The font editors differ greatly depending on if they are designed to edit bitmap fonts or outline fonts. Bitmap pictures under the outline. The TA talks about what bitmap really is in terms of when you are creating some of these applications, these fonts, getting things out of them. There are certain special font editing tools that can also be used to make your own type of font. Just as an application software, you know what application software? These are software that we install on our system software operating system. So they are specialized application software that you can install that can help you create your own font. And you can pick up a font, use it as a basis to create your own font. So that is also very possible. So that is font editing and font design tools to help to be able to come out with fonts. But of course, most of the fonts that we use, people have already designed it. These are all different types of fonts that are available. People have been able to create them. So it's best to use the ones that is appropriate for you, for the job that you want to work with. And you should be mindful that the font family that is maybe conducive for the web might not be so good for a print the print card when you're using it for a hard copy printing. So those are very key things that you should know. You just don't use any fonts at any point in time. There are some that are very suited for the web, and others that are suited for hard copies. Rest Edit. This is an application that is available in Apple. So Rest Edit is a source editor available for Apple that is useful for creating and changing graphic resources such as the cursor icon, the cursor icons, dialog box. I'm believing from your introduction to computing, you know what a cursor is, you know what an icon is, you know how a dialog box looks like, a pattern, a keyboard map, and these, and so on and so forth. I'm believing you know that. So when you hear of Red Edit, it's an application that runs on the Apple or the Macintosh OS. And unfortunately, in our part of the world, we are more centered on the use of Windows. So it can be used to edit or create new font resources and also store the bitmap of screen fonts. So we can use Rest Edit to store a picture version of the fonts that are on our screen. Fontographer. So this is also a very powerful editor which is supplied by Micromedia. The Micromedia, Adobe has a hand in it. The application that I showed you earlier on, which is this one, um, this application that I showed you earlier on, that is Micromedia photo fireworks. If you look at the name, it's called Micromedia 8 fireworks. So it's a Micromedia product. Adobe purchased this product and now they don't even produce the Micromedia fireworks again. So Fontography is a powerful font editor which is supplied by Micromedia and is specialized in graphics editing. And for both, you can have a version that runs on the Macintosh and also Macintosh and another version that runs on Windows. So Fontographer, in fact, most of these things are just application software that you can use for your editing and the creation of fonts and stuff like that. But the good thing is we have tons and tons of fonts that are available online. So you don't need to go through all these to get these fonts installed. Again, the fontographer, as the name says, fontographer, allows the creation of multiple font design from two existing typeface. You know what typeface is? I talked about it. So you can have two typeface, and you can, based on that, you can use fontographer to create multiple font design from that. Type designer is also for Windows. It's also coming from the DS design. It is a font editing that also lets you create and convert manipulative type post type one. And these were applications that existed some years back. That's this time around they're not really being used. So that is about examples of applications that you can use to create your own fonts. And be mindful that the PostScript is a font format which was developed somewhere in the 1980s by Adobe. So it was actually part of their PostScript page description language, which was used in the publishing of desktop documents and also in printing. So ideally, it was one of the first digital font formats that existed, and that was mainly scalable and also supported fonts and high quality printing. So that is the post script type one. But of course, now Adobe has evolved over the years, so the use of post script types is no more in existence. Now they have very good Illustrator, Photoshop, very good application that you can use to create all these. All right. So for Font Monga, it's also as the name. So these are all applications that run on respective OSs that you can use to create your fonts. So Font Monga was also produced by the Aris software, and by this they actually offer the proprietary hinting technology. With this, you will probably would have to buy the application to be able to use it for fonts, regardless, irrespective of the size of that particular font. So these are all individual software that you can use to create your own fonts. All right, so that is the same way we have the Cool 3D text. As the name says, Cool 3D Production Studio was responsible for this program, and what they did was the use of the Cool 3D text you can use to create and also animate 3D objects or text. It could be graphics, it could be video for video production and also multimedia products. So with this type of program, a user is able to create 3D objects or graphics, animations for a video. And as I said, when you get to third year, you'll be able to create 3D objects, have some scenes. You are in second year, so when you first year, when you get to second year, I have a list of some of the designs and some of the 3D models that have been created by the current second years, and they are beautiful. I will project those ones on a web application, which you can see and be motivated that you will be able to develop 3D objects in 3D scenes yourself. So, and it's all done by scripting, by typing in codes and all of that. So we don't use software to do that. All right, so include new modeling tools, animation plugins, and stuff like that. So that is a cool 3D. Font Chameleon, so is also a product of the Aris software, which also runs on Macintosh and also Windows. And it builds millions of different fonts from a single master font outline. So if you have a single font outline, you can use a font chameleon to change that master outline font into different fonts. As it says, millions of fonts. You know how chameleon is. Chameleon are able to change, their color. If a chameleon should walk or should just walk on my table right now, based on the type of color that he probably sees, he'll be able to probably have changed his color to the color of my shirt. And that is how chameleon works. So they can change their colors based on what they see at any point in time. They have that capability to do that. So most designers find it easier to make pretty type, starting with ready-made fonts, of course. So you have a font available, then you build on it to create your own font. Now let's hit on hypermedia and also hypertext. So hypermedia information, with hypermedia information, spaces are connected by linear links such as which a user may follow in order. So for instance, let me use this as an example. So we can have a hyper document and that contains all these um, information. And per this, you can have a hyper document, so a combination of a text document, an image document, a source anchor, a destination anchor, and a link will form what we call the hyper document. So these are examples of this. All these things in the legend come together to form a hyper document. So in here you have the nodes, the links, and also the anchor links. Now, in intro to computing, it said when you have an object connected on a network or connected together, we call them nodes. So all these things, because they are connected together, they form nodes. So hypermedia information spaces are connected by nonlinear links, so which a user may follow in any order. So, for instance, by linear, it means you move in this direction in a form of a line. But of course, with this document can be linked to this text document can be linked to a destination anchor, can have a destination anchor. So when you click on it, it takes you to an anchor in here. And the same text document, you can also have this text document also being projected, this one projected into this text document. So in fact, the movement of these objects is not in a linear order, but rather in a non-linear order. So media information spaces are arranged sequentially with only one path through the information provided. You know what hypertext is? Hypertext, a text that is a little hyper. I explained to it. I explained this the last time. So the text that you have in here, if there is a link, so for instance, this document, the text document have a hyperlink in here that when you click on it will take you to this particular anchor tag or anchor link that you see in here, destination link in the same document. The creation of some of these is very easy. In web programming, you do all of these, so don't really be worried about them. So a combination of all these in the legends would help you come out with a hyper document. So when we talk of the referential and also organizational links, in fact, right after this, I'm going to put up this PowerPoint slides in there. The lecture materials too, I'll put it in there. I would want you to go through it, read it, if you want more information. And again, if you have some questions, put it on the forum page, and I'll come in to answer the questions that you do have. Yes. So the referential and also organizational links. So some authors, in actual fact, are able to distinguish between the referential and organizational hyperlinks. Referential links are the references distinctive of hypermedia, and the organizational links are special links which establish explicit structure by connecting a parent node with each child or children, and thereby, based on that, you'll be able to form a tree within an overall node link graph. I'll have a demonstration in here for you to see. So using hypertext systems, so when you have this in mind, hypertext systems, so information management and hypertext programs usually present electronic text, images, and also other forms of elements in a database fashion. And again, hypertext database make use of proprietary indexing system, which are very crucial whenever we talk about the hypertext system. So information management and hypertext programs usually present electronic text, images, we're talking about hyper images, and also other elements in a database fashion. Now, there are times we want to be able to search information online. So, assuming we are searching for words, there are typically some certain words or typical methods that we have to go through to be able to search a hypermedia system and be able to get very good results. And these are some of them. So in here, we have the adjacency, we have the word relationship, we have the alternatives, the frequency of the words that exist in maybe the document, the association of the word that you have in the document to others, truncation, as the word truncates into truncation, that is the cutting. You have maybe a phrase, there's a cutting of it, a section of it that is taken away. So negation of some of these words and intermediate words. So these are things that relate to the section of words whenever you're dealing with hypermedia systems. Now, every hypermedia system also has a structure. So these, we're going to talk about the structures. There are certain nodes. I talked about nodes, things that are connected together. They form what we call nodes. So every hypermedia also has some sort of structure. So each of these structure, we have what we have in there. We have the nodes. So the nodes are accessible topics, documents, and messages, and content elements. So in this way, we can have, so because they are all connected, each of the nodes could be the accessible topics. It could be a document with messages and also content element in there. And some of the nodes and links usually form the backbone of a knowledge-based access system. So the nodes that are connected together and the links that connect these nodes form the backbone of the knowledge access. So links, you know what links are. Links are connections between these elements, and because these elements are connected together, then we are able to move from one point to the other. So just like how you visit a website and there's a link in there, you click on the link, then the link takes you to a different pathway or a different menu. So you're able to move from one page of the website to a different page on the website, mainly because of links. So for anchors sometimes work just like this. Most times when you have a document, so for instance, have maybe a whole page document, and let's use a table of content as an example. Once you have a table of content, sometimes based on the way the table of content was being generated, if you click on maybe chapter one on the table of contents, the moment you do click on it, it takes you directly to chapter one on the document itself. That is how anchors also work on the web. So you can have an anchor tag that contains a link, and when you click on that link, it takes you to the right place that the anchor tag has been specified for you to view the contents that is in there. So as I use the table of contents analogy, so if you have chapter one in the table of contents, the table of content can be at the bottom somewhere. You probably would have to scroll to be able to see that. But the moment you click on the chapter one from the table of contents, you are automatically redirected to chapter one of the documents. So anchor is defined as a reference from one document to another document. Sometimes it could be images, sound, or file on the web. So the destination node linked to the anchor is referred to as the link end. So the destination node, that is the node that ends it. So the destination node, when you click on an anchor, an anchor tag or link, where it takes you to is what we call the link end. So the source node link to the anchor is referred to as the link anchor. So that is the link that you rather click on it. So in our case, When you click on chapter 1, so chapter 1 is the link anchor, and taking you to the page where chapter 1 is, that is the link end. So that is the destination node. Being able to navigate hypermedia structures. So usually we have the location markers that should be in a way that we'll be able to provide to make the navigation user friendly. If you go to a site and it is very difficult to be able to move from one point to the other, then what's the point? It should be friendly enough. It should be friendly enough for users to use the system. And the simplest way to do this in the area of navigating hypermedia, like pictures and all these structures, is the use of buttons. So, for instance, you go to a website, there is a content in there. You can have a picture with a content, maybe a news article, a picture and a little introduction of the picture. Then you have maybe a button that says read more. So the moment you click on the read more, then you're able to read the article itself. So that is what's called as the multimedia, navigating multimedia structure. So usually these structures, you're able to navigate between them by the use of buttons. Not these buttons, but buttons that reside on the web, like the read more button that we normally see. Hypertext tools. So generally, two functions common to most of these hypermedia text management system are the building and the reading. These information have been outlined very well into details in the lecture material that I'll put on the page. So please go through it thoroughly. And now let's talk about node links and also navigation. They look more alike. So sometimes a physical web page behaves like two or more separate chunks of content. So you can have a web page. It depends on how the structure of the page is. You can have a web page with something we call an accordion. So, for instance, when you launch the page for the first time, you're able to see the content in there that is open for the first time. And we have certain buttons that when you click, you're able to see other content on the same page, without having to move away from that particular page. So most times the page is not the essential unit of the content the website builds with. Let me come. Yeah, the page is not the essential unit of the content in the website built with Flash and in many non-web hypertext systems. So the content that you have in here is not necessarily the units of the content on the site, but which is built. Just a minute. So sometimes so most of the time, people or majority of the users, what they do is they click on, developers have realized that most people click on things um, that they see more attractive. So developers also try to put things in place to make it easier for people or users of a site to click on things that they believe are necessary. So in some cases, if the text in here is maybe of one color, they can have a text or a button or a link that is of a different color. That's just to get the attention of the individual to force them to click, especially if they really want the user to be aware of certain things. Yes, information structure. So as the name says, information structure, the information that you put on the site, how are they structured? In what way? How is the movement really like? So most web designers and other hypertext creators, they work in such a way that uh, they will be able to decide which node will be the link to which other node. So of course, on the websites, you need to be able to click on a link to take you to a different page. So what is so important on the page, on the current page, that we think um, is linked to a different page? What keyword in there should we make as a link to make the user click and go to a different page? Let me use this as an example. So for instance, You go to a site, there is a news article. They've just given you a little introduction of the news article. They would want you to be able to click on something or link the news article, which is short, the short version of the news article that is being displayed. They would want you to read the article itself. So now that is when they bring in a button or a link for you to click to read more of that particular article. So most web designers and other hypertext, they should find ways to work very hard to decide which node will be linked to which other node. And by doing so, then you're able to help to structure the information that they have on the site very well. So first of all, they give a caption of the news article, and by information structuring, doing that very well, they also create a link, more like a read more. When you click on it, then it takes you to the actual content that you need that information from. So that is where what is termed as information structure. So in a hierarchy, we have web-like and also web multipath. Web-like and multipath are three of the hierarchy, web-like, and also multipath. These are three of the most important information structures that are available on the web. And we'll talk about each one of them. When we talk of the the hierarchical structure, it's mostly centered on the most important structure, mainly because it forms the basis of almost all the websites and most of the other hypertext. In fact, there is a picture that I'll show you on the next slide. And again, the hierarchies are orderly, and yet they provide plenty of navigation freedom. So you can go wherever you want at any point in time. You are not restricted. So usually a well-established design principle is that users are more easily able to navigate a wide range of hierarchy than a deep hierarchy. So, for instance, if there are many options to go to, it is very easy for the user to easily navigate to such a wide hierarchy. But if that hierarchy is really in depth, it's a little difficult for them to be able to navigate all the time. Even if they do, they always will come back to the home page to be able to navigate the page again in case they miss their step at any point. So this is how the hierarchical structure looks like. So you can see we have possibly the home page of the site. So this is where the landing page, this is where you see this is the first place that you go on the site. Then you probably will have about us, maybe some few other information. So on the home page, there are four main links that you see in there. And based on the first link, the first link also has two links that when you click on. The second link also has three, and this has three. The last link does not have any, it doesn't go anywhere. So you can see there is a hierarchy. This is how the hierarchical structure looks like. This is how the web-like structure also looks like. So wherever you are, you can go wherever you want to. So if you look at most of the sites that we have in there, they always have a menu that contains virtually all the links that you need to move onto the site. So if you're on the home page, there's a menu maybe about us that contains all the links that you need. So you can move to any of these links or contents at any point in time without having to, get disoriented without having to get confused at any point in time where you are. Because you can always go to the main menu and see the content or the web link that you really need. So this is how the web link looks like. Now, this is an example of a multi-part structure. So by this, you can see this is more of a linear, and when it gets here, you can choose to go up here. You can choose to have a path by going up or by going down. And if you do go up, there are two more links that you probably can click to come back again to be in line with um, the main link in line. So with a multi-part, there are so many ways to come here. So assuming I'm somewhere here and this is my final destination, I can start from here and go to this link, come to this link, move to this link, this link, and finally arrive here. Or whilst I'm here, I can go here, come here, go here, go here, come here before I come to a final destination. I could also be here, move in a multi-path to come to the final destination. So that is how the multi-path looks like. So the web line structure, as I said, there are no specific designs to follow, but the web designer must take care in deciding which links will be the most helpful to the user. So many of such structures turn into a hierarchical structure and cause trouble to users in when they do navigate them. Sometimes it could happen. So again, many of the web-like hypertext are short stories and other works of fiction in which the artistic consideration may override the desire of the efficiency of the navigation itself. So this is how the web interface look like. There are times it could look like they're hierarchical, but that is how the web structure really looks like. The multi-part, as shown in the picture, as I showed you in figure 2.9, this figure over here. So with the multi-part, it is possible to build a sequence of nodes that is in a large path linear, but offer various alternative pathways to arrive at the destination link or destination path that we want to go. So the user find multi-path structure within a hierarchical website. So usually the task creates a multi-path structure for a hypertext. So you can have that one to be able to navigate from one point to the other. Irrespective of wherever you go, you can get to your destination link or content. The good thing is in the future development, there's been so many things that has occurred. So in computing, the web has evolved over time. So the way things were some years back is totally changing. So computing and the web continue to evolve in a great way. And the web may well become more intelligent and capable of generating personalized links that really match user interests. I think we are seeing this even now. If you visit a website, for instance, maybe AliExpress or GG or something, because you viewed maybe a hidden camera, the next time you're on the page, you see adverts of hidden camera hovering around, circulating around on the pages. And this is tailored, and this is more or less working in an intelligent way that is personalizing your web presence, your web, your how you perceive the web. So sometimes something that you probably talked about, the moment you go online, oh, that thing is, you see that particular product in there. And that is how artificial intelligence is really working. There's been release of some of these, a whole lot of these AI tools that are really helping people do so many wonderful things. So the web may also become more social as user click links. They open up live audio or video session with another user. Yeah, that is also very possible. We hope to see some of these. So in summary, these are some of the things that we learned in the unit for Unit 2 when we hit on the text. So a text is one of the most important elements of a multimedia. And again, the standard document format used for web pages is called the HTML. That was the first lecture. I said HTML stands for hypertext markup language. And there were certain markup codes that we use to create some of these pages, create these websites. So multimedia is also a combination of text, graphics, audio elements into a single presentation. So when you have a single presentation having text, graphics, and audio, all these, you can call it a multimedia. A hypertext system enables a user to navigate through text in a non-linear way. So hypertext is a text that is hyper. It's a text that has the ability to do something. It's not just a normal text. So with a hypertext, it means it is clickable. It's able to do something. It is hyper. It is active. So when you click on it, it's able to direct you to something, to a place that you want to go. So in this case, it's not in the form of a linear thing, but it's moving you to different places. We also have the dynamic HTML, which uses cascading style sheet for greater control over design. Now, in web programming next semester, you realize that you will create an HTML document, which will not look so nice when you display it in your browser. But the moment you incorporate what we call CSS, which is a cascading style sheet, to it, CSS is a way of styling your your HTML document, your website. The moment you incorporate or you link a CSS to it, your website looks so beautiful. So that is a way of enhancing the feel of an HTML document or for a website. Hypermedia information spaces are connected by nonlinear links, which a user may follow in any order that they want. So in hypertext, a reader needs not in hypertext, a reader does not really need to read a document from the beginning to the end, but can jump from one point of the document to the other just by clicking on a hotspot or a link which is active, like a hypertext, to move to a different text. So the familiar arrangements of notes and links that guide designers as they work is called the information structure. Information structure, how information is structured, and what can we do to be able to visit or hit on each of these information. So summary, hierarchy, web links, web like, and also the multipath are the three main important information structure. So please have that in mind. These are the keywords that we talked about. Bitmap font. When we talk of bitmap font, a font that stores each glyph, I told you what a glyph is, as an array of pixels that is in a bitmap form. I remember telling you that the pixel forms the basic element of a graphic or a bitmap. So just like you have a picture on your phone, when you keep zooming in, it gets to a point you see the dots of that particular picture. That is what is termed as a pixel. So the pixel forms the basis for a picture or a graphic or a bitmap. So the bitmap font is a font that stores each glyph as an array of pixels that is in a bitmap. So we know what a glyph is, a graphic representation of characters, which is shaped in such a way that the character may be represented by many glyphs. So you can have a character like R. You see how A is written differently, that is a graphic representation of a character's shape. It eventually will form as a glyph. Hyperdocument is a distinct set of nodes and links which constitute a logical work. A hyperlink, a link from a hypertext document to another location, and usually it is activated by the clicking of a highlighted word or an image. So we also talked about a keyword called hyperweb. So it's a distinct subset of the hyperlink. So that is the hyperweb. The typeface, a family of many characters, often with many type, size, and also styles. So that brings us to the end of the unit 2. This video, I'll put it up and we'll have another video coming up. Thank you very much.